Hello everyone, welcome to Devlog number 2 of Serial Adventure. We got a lot of work done this week, so let's just get right into it. In the last devlog, I got audio working properly and I had some passable camera movement. By the end, it looked a little bit like this. As you can see though, it's just a stand-in level. You can't really play it, or at least you can't have a good time playing it. But that is about to change, so this week I decided to start designing the first level. This game, as you may have noticed, is a 3D platformer, and even though it doesn't use tiles in the same way that a 2D pixel art game might, I can still create some reusable assets. Then I can sketch out the level, keeping those assets in mind before laying out and instancing them in Blender. First, I sketched out all of my asset ideas in Photoshop. Things like a counter, oven, chair, etc. that could be placed in the level. This let me have a rough idea of how I wanted them to look. I then designed some stand-in assets in Blender. These are not the final assets, at least not yet. But seriously, I just wanted to have some idea of what the game would look like, so I tried to follow the example of some older PS1 and 2 games and design some fast, low-poly models. Alright, next, I need a level. That meant once again utilizing my expert artistic abilities in Photoshop. Scale aside, I think this is a pretty good start. I can't really imagine what it's like to play, but I guess there's only one way to find out. My game engine works pretty well with Blender. I've created my own custom exporter that can handle things like instancing and even object hierarchies. I'm just laying everything out right now, just like in my drawing. These instances will then be interpreted by the engine and the correct game object will be created. In a sense then, I am using Blender as my world editor instead of re-implementing this feature myself. And honestly, this is just all about good programming practice, you know, code reuse, etc. It is not laziness at all, I assure you. Once everything is ready, exporting is pretty straightforward. It's just a few clicks and it packages the entire scene into a DIA format. The game engine reads this file in and parses all of the objects, including hierarchies, skeletons, instances, etc. Right now I have a pretty janky way of constructing the level by just instantiating game objects based on the scene object names. This will almost definitely need to be replaced soon, as I learned later on this week. Before we move on, at least one of the 3 or 4 people watching this video may have noticed something strange about the toaster. I figure this is a good time to talk about something really cool about real-world materials. Materials tend to become more like mirrors as you look at them at shallower angles, at least some materials. You can even try this yourself right now. If you pick up your phone and look at the screen, you'll notice that it's reflective, but it's not too bad. It's still fairly dark with the screen off. But now, tilt it so that it's almost perpendicular to your eyes. You'll see that it becomes almost as reflective as a perfect mirror. There's a lot of math involved in simulating that accurately, which I had to look into when writing a ray tracer, but that's a bit too in-depth for this. all we need to take away from this is something is definitely off because our toaster seems to be reflecting more light than there exists in the environment, or in other words, it is violating conservation of energy. The reason for this is that the polygons in this toaster are quite large and they're smooth. Since normals are interpolated between vertices, you can actually end up in a situation where the polygon itself is facing the camera, but some of the normals are not. Think about how confusing that is for a minute. Anyway, this obviously messes up the calculations, but limiting the output of certain calculations to 1 seems to solve the issue for now. Okay, so with that out of the way, I need to start adding some game objects. For now, that just means copy and pasting the code that implemented the fridge and other static assets. Almost immediately after doing this for the fridge, I noticed there were some serious scale issues. The fridge for sure is way too short. The level is actually so unplayable that I laughed the first time that I tried to run it. Anyway, it'll need some tweaking. But this is pretty time consuming actually, and at the moment I have to restart the game every time an asset is changed or the game world is updated. Hot reloading is definitely now a requirement. Learning about these shortcomings of my engine is one of my main reasons for doing this project, so it's actually good that these issues are coming up because this is exactly what I wanted. The next thing that I added was a vase object, which can be moved or damaged. I mean, check out the simulation, like it's amazing. It's still a bit unstable, I will admit that. It's got some numerical instability there, but that's fine. It just needs a little bit of work. It's based on quite an old book called Game Physics Engine Development, which I think I got in high school. So I don't know, I might need some updating, but I don't know, like it works okay for now. The final thing I wanted to do this week is get some dynamic lighting happening. Honestly, because I needed a thumbnail, but the shaders that I've written support simple directional lights. So I added some ceiling lights, messed with the lighting values until it looked okay. Pretty happy with the result, but it's probably going to change later. Alright, and that's pretty much all I had time for this week. I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made so far, and I'm just a few steps away from having a fully playable level. Right now I'm just missing some of the dynamic elements that I had in my sketch, so things like the fan, NPCs, and also the hood over the stove. I'll be starting on those next week, so make sure to check that out. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a great week.